There comes a moment in life when you realize that the world won't always walk beside you. Not because you're unworthy, not because you're forgotten, but because life offers you a season where solitude becomes your greatest classroom. Being alone isn't a punishment. It's an invitation. It's an opportunity to meet the most important person you will ever know, yourself. Many people fear being alone because they mistake it for loneliness. Loneliness is empty. It's longing for someone else to fill a gap you never learned to fill on your own. But being alone is fullness. It's you recognizing that everything you need to become extraordinary already lives within you. When you understand that distinction, you become unstoppable. You see, some people never grow because they're never alone long enough to reflect. They stay surrounded by noise, constantly seeking validation, approval, connection, distraction. They don't realize that every time they choose noise over silence, they choose stagnation over transformation. The greatest breakthroughs happen when you finally sit with yourself long enough to listen. Solitude is where self-respect begins. You learn what you truly want instead of inheriting the desires of others. You discover your standards, your values, your goals. And the moment you recognize your own worth, you stop discounting yourself. You stop negotiating with your potential. You stop tolerating the mediocre. When you can enjoy your own company, you become selective instead of desperate. You don't cling to people who drain you. You don't chase after those who walk away. You don't fear losing anyone because you know you'll never lose yourself. That is power. That is freedom. Let me tell you something important. The world rewards the person who knows how to stand alone with confidence. The world respects the one who doesn't beg for attention but earns it through discipline, consistency, and character. People will start to wonder, how do they keep rising? How do they keep growing? The answer is simple. While they were partying, you were planning. While they were distracted, you were developing. While they were talking, you were working. Silence may hide you for a while, but it also builds you for a lifetime. Some of the most successful people on the planet built their lives in seasons where no one believed in them, no one supported them, and no one clapped for them. They had to clap for themselves. That lonely season wasn't lonely at all. It was sacred. It was the cocoon where their greatness was forming. Solitude was their advantage. But here's the truth: being alone requires courage. It's easier to follow the crowd. It's easier to settle for company that slows you down. It's easier to lower your standards just to avoid silence. But every time you choose easy, you choose regret. And regret is far harder to face than solitude. Some people spend their whole lives avoiding being alone, and because of that, they avoid becoming someone extraordinary. They never build self-discipline. They never design their own path. They never learn to depend on themselves. And then they wonder why they feel powerless. They surrendered their power the moment they believed they needed someone else to feel whole. Let me give you a challenge. Go sit in a cafe by yourself. Go watch a sunset without scrolling your phone. Go take yourself on a long walk and listen to the thoughts you've been running from. You might hear your purpose whispering. You might hear your passion calling. You might hear the version of you that you buried underneath fear and comparison. There is a version of you that only isolation can reveal. A version that is ambitious, focused, hungry. A version that wants more from life than survival. It wants success, impact, legacy. You won't meet that version in the crowd. You'll meet it in the silence of your room late at night when you decide that your dreams matter more than your distractions. Maybe you're in a season where friendships have faded. Maybe relationships ended. Maybe life took people away that you thought would stay forever. And now you sit there wondering, why am I alone? The better question is, who am I becoming because of this? Sometimes life removes the people who keep you small. Sometimes the universe clears the path so you can finally see who you are meant to be. Losing people isn't always a loss. Often, it's the beginning of abundance. Your circle shrinks when your standards rise. That is not loneliness. That is elevation. When you embrace solitude, you become a better friend, a better partner, a better leader. Not because someone completes you, but because no one controls you. You enter relationships from a place of fullness, not desperation. If someone stays in your life, it's because they add value, not because you're afraid to be alone. That is how healthy relationships are built, not from need, but from strength. I want you to start treating solitude like training, like the gym for your mind, your spirit, your future. When nobody is watching, are you studying? Are you creating? Are you improving? Because that is where the winners are formed. Every champion was once a beginner practicing alone. Every empire was once a sketch in a notebook. Every transformation was once a private decision that nobody understood. People may laugh at your discipline. They may mock your priorities. They may call you boring because you're not living like them. But soon, these same people will come back asking for advice. They will want to know how you broke free, how you built that business, how you built that confidence, how you built that life. You'll smile because you'll know. While they debated, you decided. While they hesitated, you moved. While they needed company to feel comfortable, you learned to lead yourself. Let me share something powerful. Your future self is counting on the choices you make in your alone time. That person is waiting. The leader, the creator, the champion inside of you. Every hour spent developing your mind, every minute spent working on your dream, every decision to prioritize your growth, it all compounds. Success is built in the quiet moments no one else sees. Some people are only strong when they have others beside them. But real strength is when you stand tall even when no one is there to offer a hand. Real strength is when you bet on yourself and win. Real strength is when you walk into a room alone and still feel like you belong there. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you deserve. And when you enjoy your own company, you broadcast a message loud and clear. I deserve excellence. You set a new standard, and life responds to that standard. Don't misunderstand me. There's beauty in companionship, collaboration, community. But there's danger in dependence. Never allow someone else's presence to be the source of your confidence. If they leave, does your confidence leave with them? If yes, then you never truly owned it. Confidence must be built internally. Identity must be rooted deeply. Purpose must be forged independently. Then, when others join you on your journey, they amplify your strength. They don't become the reason for it. You must become someone you yourself admire. Work on your body until you're proud of the mirror. Work on your mindset until excuses bore you. Work on your skills until success feels inevitable. When you reach that point, you won't fear being alone. You'll crave it because you'll realize solitude is your sanctuary, your advantage, your fuel. You may be alone right now because you are being prepared. Prepared to outgrow your old life. Prepared for responsibilities you've never carried. Prepared for opportunities far greater than the crowd you left behind. Think of the seed planted deep in darkness. Nobody sees its struggle. Nobody applauds its progress. But beneath the soil, it is growing, strengthening, preparing to break through. Its isolation is not a sentence. It's a setup for bloom. And when the time is right, it rises. It reaches the light. And suddenly, everyone notices what they once ignored. That's you. Right now, you are in the planting stage. You're building roots. You're forming character. You're developing resilience. When the spotlight finally hits you, people will believe you appeared overnight. They will call you lucky. But you'll know, luck had nothing to do with it. Solitude did. If you learn to love being alone, you unlock peak focus. You remove competition because your only competition becomes your previous self. You stop worrying about who is watching and start caring about who you are becoming. Growth requires separation. Caterpillars don't become butterflies while staying in the crowd. Lions don't learn to hunt while depending on others. Champions don't win medals by skipping practice. And you won't discover your greatness until you stop clinging to comfort. You want success? Learn to walk alone. You want discipline? Learn to silence the noise. You want confidence? Learn to appreciate your own presence. The world doesn't give power. It recognizes power. And power is built privately. Never fear the season where you feel like you have no one. That season is where you develop into someone. Someone who walks with purpose. Someone who wakes up with fire. Someone who refuses to settle. Someone who doesn't abandon themselves at the first sign of solitude. Most people talk about their goals, but few go after them when no one is cheering. Be the few. Be the one who continues even in silence. That's how you earn a life that astonishes the crowd that underestimated you. Let me remind you, you came into this world alone, and you will leave it alone. What matters is who you become in between. Don't waste the middle years trying to fit into average. Use them to rise above ordinary. Every time you choose to be alone with your goals, instead of surrounded by distraction, you are investing in your future success. Every time you choose the gym over the comfort of company, you are building a body that demands respect. Every time you choose learning over entertainment, you are sharpening a mind that cannot be ignored. That is not loneliness. That is leadership, leadership of self. The day you stop fearing solitude is the day you step into real maturity. Because maturity is knowing that your destiny is not tied to who walks with you, but to who you decide to become. Some of the people you think you need right now won't even exist in your future, but you will. So start showing up for yourself. Go build that business. Go train for that dream job. Go write that book. Go create that plan. Go pursue that vision. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for support. Don't wait for company. The greatest things in human history began with one person who decided to start alone. If you spend your life waiting for others to join you, you'll die waiting. If you spend your life depending on others for happiness, you'll die disappointed. But if you spend your life mastering yourself, you'll live powerful, proud, and free. One day you will thank yourself for the nights you worked alone, the mornings you woke up early with no motivation but relentless determination, the days you believed in a future that no one else could see. That's the price of becoming exceptional, and most people are not willing to pay it. But you are, because deep down, you know you weren't built for average. You weren't built to blend in. You weren't built to live a life defined by fear of being alone. You were built to lead, to build, to conquer, to inspire. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't panic. Don't rush to fill the room. Don't assume something is wrong. Smile. Recognize the blessing. Recognize the advantage. Recognize the preparation. Stand tall in your solitude and say, this is my season of growth. This is my time to build. This is where I rise. You may be alone today, but you are not lonely. You are becoming someone remarkable. And when the world finally sees you, they'll realize what you've known all along. You never needed a crowd to feel powerful. You only needed yourself. And now, you have yourself. When you stop needing approval, your confidence becomes unshakable. Most people move through life with an invisible leash tied to other people's opinions. They adjust their behavior to fit expectations. They alter their dreams to avoid judgment. They shrink their voice to keep others comfortable. Approval becomes their currency, but the cost is their authenticity. And the truth is, the approval they chase is temporary, unreliable, and often from people who haven't even figured out their own lives. The moment you stop looking outward for permission, you reclaim power you didn't even realize you surrendered. Approval seeking isn't just a habit, it's a prison. It makes you afraid of standing out, afraid of trying, afraid of failing, afraid of succeeding. It turns your energy toward perception instead of progress. You start caring more about how things look than how things are. You choose being liked over being respected. You prioritize fitting in over growing up. And in that pursuit, you lose the most important relationship you have, the one with yourself. Approval becomes the mirror through which you evaluate your worth, instead of recognizing that worth is built internally, not granted externally. Think about this: when you always look for validation, you hand others the power to define you. If they approve, you feel high. If they disapprove, you feel low. That means your self-esteem isn't self-esteem at all, it's other people esteem. You become a character in their story instead of the author of your own. You live reactively instead of proactively. Your confidence becomes fragile, conditional, breakable with a single comment or disapproving look. No champion was ever built that way. You cannot lead a life of greatness when you give your power away so cheaply. The world will always have something to say. If you rise, they'll criticize. If you fail, they'll mock. If you stay average, they'll ignore you. So why let their voices shape your identity? Stop waiting for the world to clap before you begin. Start clapping for yourself, not arrogance, not ego. Just the quiet ownership of your own value. A person who knows their worth doesn't need validation. And ironically, that's when the world starts validating them the most. Respect follows those who no longer chase approval. Building unshakable confidence begins with a decision. The decision to be honest with who you are and what you want. Not the filtered version. Not the version designed to impress. The raw version. The true version. That version may not be accepted by everyone, and that's the point. You are not here to convince the world. You are here to become the best version of yourself, and the best version of you will be too much for some people. Too ambitious, too focused, too different, too driven. That's fine. You do not need everyone. You need the right ones, and they only come after you stop bending for the wrong ones. Confidence is built by doing the things you believe in, even when nobody understands. By having your own back. By standing up for yourself when doubt tries to knock you down. By continuing even when support is silent. Confidence is a muscle. The more you trust yourself with difficult things, the stronger it becomes. But the second you break yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone, that muscle weakens. Every small act of approval seeking chips away at your power. Every small act of self-belief strengthens it. People who change the world are rarely approved at the beginning. Innovators are criticized. Leaders are judged. Dreamers are mocked. Visionaries are doubted. But they keep going because they understand something essential. Progress always creates discomfort for those addicted to the familiar. If you seek approval, you'll end up abandoning every idea that challenges the status quo. You'll live the life others expect instead of the one you desire. And the pain of that betrayal will always be heavier than the discomfort of disapproval. Let me tell you why confidence becomes unshakable once you remove approval from the equation. When you know who you are, you stop negotiating your values. When you know what you're capable of, you stop asking for permission to act. When you trust your direction, you stop letting others steer. Critics no longer intimidate you because you're too busy building. Rejection no longer hurts you because you didn't rely on acceptance to feel whole. The opinions of others become background noise while you focus on the symphony of your own future. Some will call you selfish for choosing yourself. Some will call you arrogant for believing in your potential. Some will distance themselves because your growth exposes their stagnation. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them fall away. Their opinions are not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to your purpose, your growth, your evolution. The right people will respect you more for being real than for being agreeable. And if they don't, then they were never for you anyway. Every great transformation requires letting go. Letting go of approval is letting go of fear. Fear of not belonging. Fear of being judged. Fear of standing alone. But here's the secret: once you release that fear, you discover you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand out. Not in arrogance, but in authenticity. The world needs fewer copies and more originals. And you cannot be original while performing for applause. So start practicing the freedom of not caring what others think, not recklessly, not disrespectfully, but intentionally, thoughtfully. Practice saying no without guilt. Practice expressing your ideas without shrinking. Practice making decisions because they are right for you, not because they are acceptable to others. Each time you do, you break another link in the chain of approval. And slowly, you rise, not because others lifted you, but because you lifted yourself. You are allowed to live a life that others don't understand. You are allowed to choose a path that confuses them. You are allowed to dream bigger than they ever dared. Approval is optional. Self-respect is essential. And once you have self-respect, confidence follows naturally. It stands tall, it speaks clearly. It doesn't tremble when questioned. It doesn't disappear when ignored. It remains because it is built on something solid: truth. So do the work that builds inner strength. Build habits that make you proud. Set boundaries that protect your peace. Create goals that challenge your comfort. In that journey, you'll look around one day and realize something remarkable. You no longer seek applause, yet applause arrives. You no longer need support, yet support shows up. You no longer fear judgment, yet judgment loses its power. Because confidence built on your own belief cannot be shaken by the disbelief of others. Approval seeking is rooted in scarcity, the fear that you alone are not enough. Confidence is rooted in abundance, the assurance that you, by yourself, are already complete. And when you operate from abundance, everything changes. You stop lowering yourself. You stop chasing what is beneath you. You stop begging for a seat at tables you were meant to own. You understand that you are the source. You are the asset. You are the opportunity. And the world responds to the energy of someone who knows their value. You become unstoppable when you compete only with your past self. Most people spend their lives distracted by the illusion of competition. They compare their progress to someone else's timeline, their success to someone else's highlight reel, their value to someone else's approval. They watch others climb and assume they're falling behind. They let envy poison their direction. They let comparison rob them of momentum. When you're focused on the lane next to you, you forget to run your own race. But the moment you shift your perspective, the moment you decide that the only person you need to beat is the person you were yesterday, everything changes. Competing with others keeps you insecure. Competing with yourself keeps you improving. Others become irrelevant to your mission, not because you ignore them, but because you no longer measure your worth by their achievements. Their journey has nothing to do with yours. Their pace is not your pace. Their opportunities are not your opportunities. You are writing a story that has never been written before, and you cannot use someone else's page numbers to tell you whether you're behind or ahead. When you decide that your previous self is your only rival, progress becomes personal. You start asking different questions. Not, are they doing better than me? But, am I doing better than I used to? Not, why don't I have what they have? But, what can I do today that future me will thank me for? Now, what will they think? But how far can I go? That shift creates a mindset where growth becomes inevitable. Self-competition eliminates excuses. It exposes where you are lying to yourself. You can't hide behind comparison anymore, because now the standard is internal. Did you give more effort today than yesterday? Did you learn something new? Did you take even one step forward? If the answer is yes, you're winning. If the answer is no, then you know exactly where the work needs to be done. That level of honesty builds discipline like nothing else can. Most people stall because they spend more time watching others than working on themselves. They admire someone's success and assume the finish line appears without the miles. They want progress without the process. But when you compete with yourself, the process becomes the point. You fall in love with the grind. You celebrate the small victories. You stop needing recognition because you recognize the progress within. Every workout, every late night, every quiet morning spent improving becomes a triumph. You become dangerous when the fire that drives you comes from inside, not from the need to outperform someone else. External validation fades. Internal determination remains. The hunger that comes from self-competition doesn't end when you surpass others. It grows because you know there's no limit. You realize you can always get a little sharper, a little wiser, a little stronger. There is always a new level. That's what makes you unstoppable. Think about the most successful people you admire. They don't wake up wondering what others are doing. They wake up wondering what their future selves expect. They measure success by improvement, not comparison. That's why they keep winning long after others would have quit. When external competition fades, those who rely on jealousy or pride lose motivation. But the self-driven keep climbing because their purpose isn't tied to anyone else's scoreboard. When you compete with yourself, you develop patience. You understand that real transformation doesn't happen in a week or a month. It happens through consistent repetition of better choices. You learn to appreciate progress more than perfection. You show up even when you're tired. You push even when results are invisible. You trust the compounding effect of daily improvement. Over time, those small upgrades produce massive breakthroughs. Comparison leads to frustration. Progress leads to motivation. One drains you, the other fuels you. When you stop trying to outperform everyone else, you start outperforming your own excuses. You no longer sabotage your journey with self-doubt because you realize growth is personal. There is no timeline except the one you commit to. There is no need to rush. There is only a need to continue. Even failure looks different when you compete with yourself. Failure becomes feedback, not a verdict. It becomes a challenge, not a defeat. You ask, how do I do better next time? Instead of, what will they think of me now? Failure becomes part of the improvement, not the end of it. That belief alone makes you resilient in a way comparison never could. People who chase external competition may reach success, but they rarely keep peace. Their confidence depends on staying ahead of others, and life has a way of shifting positions quickly. But when your confidence is built on your own progress, no shift can shake it. You become your own source of stability. Your worth remains intact, whether you're leading or learning. You gain humility, but also power. The power of knowing you can restart anytime and still rise. Self-competition also destroys jealousy. You stop resenting others' success because their success doesn't threaten your own. You can celebrate them genuinely. You can learn from them without feeling inferior. You can be inspired without being intimidated. This mindset turns competition into collaboration, envy into empowerment. The world becomes abundant instead of scarce. When you only compete with yourself, you also become more creative. You take risks because you're not afraid of being judged. You innovate because you are trying to evolve, not imitate. You explore different strategies, experiment with different techniques, and uncover abilities you didn't know you had. Others stay trapped in the fear of falling behind, while you rise because you fear staying the same. The greatest athletes don't win by beating someone once. They win by beating their own previous record again and again. The greatest entrepreneurs don't build one success. They keep reinventing their value. The greatest leaders don't compare, they develop. Every day, they ask themselves the same question: how far can I push my potential today? That question creates excellence. The moment you make that shift, life becomes a game where you are always leveling up. Every version of you becomes a competitor worth defeating. You'll look back one day and see a long line of former selves, each one weaker, less experienced, less confident, and you'll smile because you left them behind with honor. You carried their lessons forward, you respected their effort, and you did not let them become your ceiling. Who you were last year should not recognize who you are now. Who you are today should not be able to keep up with who you are becoming. Growth is your responsibility, and consistency is your discipline. The one who stays consistent does not need to compete externally. Consistency guarantees progress, and progress guarantees that one day the world will look at you and think your success came out of nowhere. But you will know the truth. Your success came out of daily decisions to improve when nobody else was watching. You become unstoppable when you build relationships after you've built self-respect. Too many people rush into friendships, partnerships, and circles hoping someone else will validate their worth. They want connection so badly that they forget to first connect with themselves. They want to be chosen so desperately that they forget to choose standards. And when you enter relationships without self-respect, you hand others the blueprint for how to treat you, and that blueprint usually gets used against you. Self-respect is the foundation of every strong connection. It is the invisible energy that tells the world what you will accept, what you will reject, and what you will never tolerate again. When you respect yourself, you stop entertaining disrespect from others. You stop justifying bad behavior. You stop clinging to people who show you repeatedly that they do not value you. Without self-respect, relationships become negotiations for love. With self-respect, relationships become collaborations of value. There is a powerful shift that happens when you recognize your own worth first. You no longer look for someone to complete you. You look for someone who compliments you. You don't beg for attention. You expect alignment. You don't sacrifice your peace for connection. You protect your peace like your greatest asset. And suddenly everything changes. People who once took advantage of your kindness now lose access to your energy. People who only love the weak version of you fall away because they cannot handle your upgrades. The ones who stay are those who respect your strength because they have strength of their own. Self-respect teaches you boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are expectations. They are the structure that allows love to grow without chaos. When you have boundaries, you aren't rude, you aren't distant, you aren't cold. You are clear. Clarity eliminates confusion. Clarity earns respect. When you know exactly what you will accept in your life, people either rise to meet that level or they remove themselves. Either outcome benefits you because self-respect doesn't fear losing others. It fears losing itself. The most painful relationships you've ever had were not caused by love, but by the lack of self-respect. You overgave. You under-received. You tolerated what drained you. You stayed quiet when you should have spoken. You excused what should have been a deal breaker. But every heartbreak, every betrayal, every disappointment was a lesson. Each one pushed you closer to understanding what you deserve.